So my name is Evan Campbell. I am a product support engineer here with CKD USA. Thank you to All World. We're here to highlight how to detect pneumatic leaks within a pneumatic system. So right now you can see just I have a basic setup here with the pneumatic cylinder, just double rod on both sides. I have a standard pneumatic valve here, and then we just have our filter and regulator from our air source over here. So the first thing you want to do when inspecting a system for pneumatic leaks, first you want to just take a look at the cylinder. So you want to see if there's anything obvious about the cylinder that might be damaged or out of place or might be causing that air leak. So you want to see if another component might have fallen on it, see if any fittings are loose, see if any of the tubing connections might be loose as well too. A lot of the times, a lot of the leaks are solved simply by just doing that. So that is going to definitely be your first step. But in this case, we can see everything looks pretty normal. We have our tube simply plugged in on both sides. We can double check the fittings. Now for the purpose of this video, I know one of these fittings is going to be loose. So I'm going to show you the compare and contrast between one good fitting and one bad fitting. So right now we can see the one good fitting is the one currently getting air from our valve. So we're not going to get any leak from it, but just to show that, we do have a way to test that with a soapy water bottle. So what we do with this is we're hoping to spray some of the soapy water onto the cylinder around potential leak points. And if there actually is a leak, you will see some bubbles and some visible air leaks coming from that. So it's just a really easy way to visually confirm that you're getting a leak from the cylinder. So for the first one, I'm going to test the good cylinder. So we'll just highlight in here. I'm going to spray just a little bit of soapy water here around the fitting. And like I mentioned, there's already air coming to this portion of the valve. So you can see there might be just a tiny bit of a leak coming from this one. But overall, this is a pretty good fitting. So this one, I might just want to add in a little bit of tape onto the fitting just to make it a little bit more secure, or just make sure that that fitting's tightened down. But overall, it's a pretty good connection here. So I'll just go ahead and wipe that off real quick. And then, like I said, I will compare and contrast that to the other fitting. Like I said, I already know this one's loose, so I fully expect to get a good leak out of this one. So same idea, I'll spray just a little bit of soapy water solution onto this fitting. I will go ahead and actuate the valve so the other side of the cylinder moves. So now you can actually see, and if you actually listen close, you can actually hear the fitting hissing some air as well too. So you can see there is some good bubbling coming up from around the cylinder, but again, you can really audibly hear that hissing noise as well too. So that's another good way to detect that leak too if you are in quieter environments. Sometimes on a shop floor, it might not be so easy to actually hear that, but if you are able to isolate the cylinder, you just are in a quieter location, that's another good way to detect that as well too. Another way that we can determine leaks within a cylinder, or another area that we need to make sure to inspect, is actually the seal around the piston rod. Not only just the fittings and the connections, but this is a very common location for air leaks as well too, in case there is a broken or a worn out seal inside of the cylinder. So similar idea to what we did with the fittings and the push-in connects. We're gonna do just a simple soapy water test, but this time around the piston rod on the face of the cylinder rather than doing it at the actual connections. So for this cylinder, we just know for the purposes of this that the connections are good. So in this case, we'll just do a similar test around the face of the cylinder. So I'll take my soapy water solution here and I'll spray it around the piston rod. And again, I will apply air to the cylinder. And you can see it's not the biggest leak there ever has been, but you can actually see the little bubbles starting to form up around the piston seal there too, indicating in this case there is a little bit of a leak. Maybe it's not the worst leak ever causing super inefficiencies, but is definitely something that should take a look at and potentially replace the seal on this cylinder. So again, not only is it just the connections you should look at, the tubing connections, if there's any sort of physical damage to the cylinder, but a lot of the times it actually is just a worn out or dry seal within the cylinder. So that is how you test that portion of the cylinder.